So he's taken one shoe off, throwing it in, and then thrown the other one down, and that's pushed him right up behind Lewis, who uses his body as a shield to make sure he's out in the water first. So didn't work exactly how Hayden Wilde wanted.
But I tell you what, both Wilde and Blummenfelt are in a good position here because Van Riel is without question one of the strongest swimmers in this field and has to swim around all those gentlemen in front. And it's all going to happen in this first swim. If they can get around this first swim, boy, this will keep this group together, because you know one thing is that Vincent Louis is going to put the hammer down in this swim.
Richard Murray is quite the way back at the back of this field behind Chongor Lehman. As the rest of our field dive into the water, a clear group of 5 and then a second group of 3 with Lacour, Velasa and Poujard. Henry Schoeman pushing up onto the back of that, and Tyler Mislachuk rounds out our top 10. There into the water goes Leo Bergier, who still has to pay an extra 5 seconds at the end for him and Chongor Lehman. But yeah, the gap opening with Vincent Lewis in front
of Hayden Wilde, who's lost the feet. And he's going to get around this first swim, boy. Vincent Louis is going to put the hammer down like he did in yesterday's semi-final. And it's going to take Martin Van Riel to come past that group of athletes, because you've got Kristian Blummenfelt on the feet of Hayden Wilde. Kristian Blummenfelt, a great swimmer, but not a swimmer as such as Martin Van Riel is. And Martin Van Riel...
What's happened there? That was Lehman, I think. Sorry to interrupt, but I think the key moment there was when Vincent Lewis managed to use his body to block Hayden Wilde out and force... And he wouldn't have to swim around him, and you can see how much, even at the back of the shot there, how much the gap has opened up now that he had clear water ahead, and that just might be the key moment in this race. There is Bergier and Canute. We're going to head down right now to Joe Ankia, who's in transition with Chris Perham.
Well, we've been scoring the running and diving. There's a lot of technique that goes into this run and dive, isn't there?
Yeah, I think you really got to carry all the momentum forward from the run up onto the ramp, launch yourself forward and get a good dive, not too high and not too deep on the entry of the water as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, the Super League launch pad has been an interesting addition there. It's Hayden Wilde swimming out on his own, so he doesn't have any feet.
Martin Van Riel is already on the front, in front of Kristian Blummenfelt, and Gustav Eding on the feet of his Norwegian countryman. And it's Martin Van Riel, if anybody can hold that gap to Vincent Louis, who is putting the hammer down in this second swim. It's such a difficult thing to do, as Aiden said, to swim this second swim. It's Martin Van Riel can close that gap, or at least hold it.
Yeah, there you go. Vincent Lewis looks like a young Aiden Longcroft Harris, the way he's gliding through the water there. And there is the Super League launch pad, and I think that Hayden Wilde just went a bit deep there on that one. And it's about 2 feet higher, and off there flops Martin Van Riel, who really didn't make the most of his time.
Yeah, your
on the launch pad.
Your legs are just dead from that run, and you can see from the dives who's really under that pressure. And look at Vincent Louis out front. You know,
look at the gap behind.
There's no question that he's strong enough to go solo. So I think he'll really push on, have a really good T1, and absolutely rip the legs off the bike.
Pierre Lacour and those big swimmers, and Anthony Poujard and Vascos Velasa have closed that gap to the group behind. The French in the water are just so powerful, and they're able to do so much damage in these second swims as athletes are fatiguing and close those gaps. And unfortunately, when you're racing this man in the pink jersey, he's usually on the front and does the same damage just by swimming away from everybody else.
Well, out of the water for the final time comes Vincent Lewis, and he's going to have a good 10 seconds or more on the rest of the field. He was about 10 seconds on average quicker in each swim yesterday than the rest of the field, and he's done the same thing here. Martin Van Riel out of the water, but you could see it's taxing him for sure. Kristian Blummenfelt knows that he's going to need a monster of a bike. There's Gustav Eden. Pierre Lacour swam over and swam past Hayden Wilde. Henry Schoeman's there as well.
That's a big group of swimmers that have closed that gap, and that might go against Vincent Louis. He has to either put the hammer down and not look back and commit to the finish line now, or this group behind is going to chase and needs to work together to close that, 10 seconds or so.
Wild past Lacour, courtesy of a quick transition, as out of the water comes Ben Canute and then Leo Bergier. And Bergier is in 12th position, well, 13th position currently, ahead of Chongor Lehman and Richard Murray last of all. But up the hill for the first time, again on the bike. The last bike of the day, Vincent Lewis, and he has got a big advantage now, as rounding the bottom of the course is Van Riel and Blummenfelt.
He knows, you know, one thing is that Blummenfelt will chase. He is not going to look around. He does not want to come second. Martin Van Riel will help him out. Martin, very technically good on the bike. Gustav Eden behind him. But Kristian Blummenfelt will be happy to go to the front, happy to push the pace. you need that help of Hayden Wild, who needs to come across to them to give some assistance, because at 3.5k to get through this bike course, Vincent Louis has all the power to stay away if he needs to.
Keeping in mind that when we head out onto the run, Kristian Blummenfelt and Vincent Lewis both have a short shoot. So Martin Van Riel will know that he's sandwiched between the two of them. Richard Murray will be struggling to get in under the 90-second mark here. We'll see. There was about, I'd say he probably won't make it out of the 90-second mark, actually. They're about 20, yeah, he knows it too. Richard Murray, tough day at the office, and he will be eliminated and finish in 15th position. Get one. He's running away from the elimination flag. He doesn't want a bar of it. And there is Rachel Clammer in the background. So, contrasting day for one of our Super League couples. There's a few of them, actually.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up, to be fair. It's always changing. Wry smile from Aidan Longcroft-Harris. As through transition again goes Vincent Lewis, and he's the master of getting a little bit of advantage and turning it into a race-winning advantage.
I think it's interesting on this course because it's really 1v1, even if you're in a pack, just because it's so hard to work together, because it's so... people are so unwilling to give up their position. So it's really, it's Kristian and Van Riel in the group, but Kristian is obviously doing the lion's share of that work, and looks like he's closing it down.
He's halved that gap. He's halved that distance. You're absolutely right. It's very, very difficult to swap turns. We don't have big open roads or long sections where you can get a nice rhythm of group going. It's just mano a mano, and you get to a point, if you're Vincent Louis, that you look back and you think, do I bury myself here, or do I save myself for the run? And I think Kristian Blummenfelt said, I'm going to get you no matter what.
Yeah, he is tracking him down. This is something we have not seen before. Vincent Lewis opening up a gap of 10 seconds and having it shut down at least part way by Kristian Blummenfelt. Hayden Wild has ridden himself back up. He lost a few spots, but he's gone past LaCour. He's gone past Gustav Eden as well on the bike.
He's the big ally to those three that you just mentioned. Hayden Wild will jump across where he can, and LaCour, Eden, and Anthony Pujard will benefit from that if they can maintain and hold his wheel.
So the gap's pretty much evaporated now. Hayden Wild comes bombing into the back end of the course, as does Eden, LaCour, and Pujard, who is hanging on. So three Frenchmen in the top 7.
Eden just had a little glance back. He let that gap open to Hayden Wild. Is that a question mark of whether he can hold that wheel anymore, or is he just checking to see where those other athletes are? Because Hayden is committed to getting across to this group.
I'd love to see a group of 4 on the final run as the bike continues, and it continues to get a bit closer. Kristian Blummenfelt takes on a little bit of water.
And Hayden's across. I think they're all going to come together. I think once Kristian gets on the back of Vincent Louis, the pace may soften, and they'll start thinking about the run ahead.
Well, you wouldn't bet against Vincent Lewis, but you also wouldn't bet against Blummenfelt.
And he is.
Yep, here he is. Had a bit of a word as well. So these two at the front both have the short shoot, which is a little shortcut they can use on the run. And I'll point it out to you. There it is at the top of the course. They can go around that, miss 3 of those A-frames. Go around that inflatable object.
And you saw Kristian just look right into the eyes of Vincent Louis and go, are you going to come with me or not? Yeah. And he just traded a blow. Like, that's what is so great about this racing, is you can see these guys doing these wild haymakers on the bike and the run. It's awesome.
Yeah, he looked into his soul and thought, do you have it in you to go with me? Because I'm going to put myself as far into the back of the cave as I can, and I want to see you respond to it.
Yeah, Kristian is one of those athletes who can just descend into that kind of darkness and just hold it there.
He prefers it there.
I think he loves it. Even you can tell on his face, there's nothing hidden across his face. He's just putting himself on the absolute red line and saying, can anybody else do the same?
Well, Chongo Lehman's doing the same as Blummenfelt, but he's just trying to avoid elimination at the moment. The vice under-23 world champion, who is in 14th position.
You can see Gustav let that gap open. He let that gap open on the last descent, so about a lap ago, and Hayden Wild was able to jump across just through technical bike skills and get that rest that he needs. And it's up to Eden and the other group of the French athletes to chase and close this gap.
Well, the big winners in terms of at the moment, if it stays the way it is in terms of championship points, are Van Riel, obviously Blummenfelt, who had a pretty poor outing by his own high standards last time around. Big losers at the moment. Ben Canute's back in 12th position. He was sitting 4th in the standings. Aaron Royal as well.
I've got the splits for the fastest of the day so far, and the fastest in the swim has been Vincent Louis, but funnily enough, the fastest in the bike has been Hayden Wild, the fastest in the run has been Hayden Wild, and the fastest in transition has been Hayden Wild.
Wow. Well, there you go. We've got one transition and a run to go. So it's all playing into the hands of Hayden Wild if he can continue that type of form. But at the moment, Kristian Blummenfelt is pushing the pace, probably going to get Chong or Lehman eliminated at the back if he continues to do so, because we have all sorts of quality at the front of this race, and that is what we ask for from Super League Triathlon as they come down the back of Mount Malta once again. We're really getting to the pointy end of this men's championship race, and the last chance to fire some shots in Super League Triathlon until after the Olympics in 2020. And it's a race befitting of the journey to Malta and the show that the Maltese have put on for us over the last 12 months. And Chong or Lehman will be eliminated.
Ironically, I thought Hayden Wild would like to move up and get into that transition a little quicker. It was Kristian Blummenfelt that was first off the bike. Maybe he couldn't get through because of the pace, but...
Who's coming out? It's
Louis
Blummenfelt and Louis. Van Riel and Wild behind.
Wild's had his slowest transition. When he needed to have the quickest one, it was then, and he didn't.
It might look like Blummenfelt is in more pain than Vincent Lewis, but I don't think you can read anything into that.
You can never count that guy out. He's a monster.
Concise and to the point, and I liked it.
Well, the one thing is they're both going to take their short shoot now. It's the only opportunity they have to take that short shoot. So the guys like Martin Van Riel, I don't think will push the pace, but Hayden Wild needed to close that gap now to get that short shoot advantage or nullify that short shoot advantage in his first 600 metres of this run. Otherwise, he's giving himself a lot to do, and from the look of it, I think it's a two-horse race here.
Well, it does look as though Vincent Lewis is doing it a little bit more easily than Kristian Blummenfelt, but we know, as you say, Aidan, he can hold on to this kind of form for as long as it takes.
It takes a lot to run over the top of Kristian Blummenfelt. If anyone can do it, it's Vincent Lewis, but you know, the one thing about Kristian Blummenfelt is one of those annoying people that even when you do get that little bit of a gap, he just stays there. He doesn't drop off like Martin Van Riel and Hayden Wild have done.
He's put the shoulder in front, Lewis, as we look back at Leo Berger, who'll also be running a risk here of being eliminated. And don't forget, he's got already to pay a 5-second penalty. He's going to look to get past the yellow flag, and he does by 10 seconds.
He's made it through Leo.
He might not make it to the end, though. He might get eliminated on the next one as Blummenfelt goes back in front and responds to Vincent Lewis. And this is the short shoot. They can take the turnaround here. Let's see that they don't make a mistake. Both of them look at it. Both of them take it. One more lap around this beautiful island here in Malta.
That'd
and
break
it almost looks like a...
That'd break.
Oh,
if you're Hayden Wild and Martin Van Riel, you're broken. They're running away anyway. They've got the short shoot. Now it's a race for third here between these two.
Final podium position between Van Riel, who I'm not sure that we've seen on a podium at Super League Triathlon yet. He only had one round last year. And Hayden Wild, who has made himself a regular in the top of the standings.
Blummenfelt squeezing that descent, had a little glance at Vincent Lewis.
I'm looking forward to this.
This is going to be magnificent because we know one thing is off this descent, Kristian Blummenfelt will not get off the gas. He's going to run this all the way through to this climb. Vincent Lewis.
Who takes it? Who takes it?
I'm not calling it this early.
Call it.
I just, it's a perfect position for Vincent Lewis to be in. He's a big sprint finisher, but of all people in front of you who you don't want it to be, it's Kristian Blummenfelt.
Well, and now Lewis goes back in front. We know that Vincent Lewis has a superb kick. His last 200 or 300 metres is almost unmatchable. Henry Schoomans felt the sting of that on multiple occasions, as has plenty of other members of this field, including Pierre Lecour out last time in Jersey. They head through transition for the final time. Now it's just one more trip up Mount Malta, which is lined with people watching two of the very best in the world who'll no doubt fight it out for the Olympic gold medal, fight it out right here in Malta in Super League Triathlon. Vincent Lewis, number 1, Kristian Blummenfelt, number 32, neck and neck. One more time around the roundabout, and then they go up the hill, and
Vincent's
the
gone
streak
around him. He's had to go around him to get that inside run on this right-hand turn. He had to move up here. If Kristian Blummenfelt was trying to keep him wide, because we make a right-hand turn and you get that inside run, which would push the other athlete wider, which is where Blummenfelt is now. He has to come in and come up on the inside of Vincent Louis, but he's not going to, which means he has to move to his left side. It's a little bit longer running.
He has to wait. Now we know that he did a 27-kilometre uphill run for training just a couple of months ago, and now he has to stay on the feet of Vincent Lewis, who is turning up the heat. He is turning up the heat. Vincent Lewis, he's kicked, and I don't think Blummenfelt's going to be able to
Don't
stay
write
with him.
Blummenfelt off yet.
But he's
Do
doing his
not write
best.
him
Here
off.
comes the
Here we
kick.
go.
Here comes the kick from Vincent Lewis, and he has put Kristian Blummenfelt in the shade and shown once again why he is the best triathlete over these distances in the world. There is no doubt he is the world champion for a reason. He is the reigning champion of Super League Triathlon, and he has the best kick in the sport. He takes the tape once again. Vincent Lewis goes back to back and picks up an extra championship point. Kristian Blummenfelt in second, and he has given every ounce of himself. Hayden Wild kicks away, does the Falcon Wings after what a week for him to finish in third. He'll take the last step of the podium from Martin van Riel, who was absolutely outstanding as well. What a race.
What a race that was.